Good morning, SFUU congregation. I am I am John Boland, and I will be talking today about the Anthropocene era and how that is affecting us, and try to discern the difference between what I call solutions versus systems as potential responses to those to the impacts. And the existential threats that those impacts bring to us in the modern era. Right now, I'd like to have Vicki come up for a few words. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Vicki Jungers, and I'm up here this morning not as your administrator, but as a member of the church. As some of you have been hearing, and we got a special minister nugget from Rev Sanjay, and I wanted to give a verbal plug for the event that we're having on February the 1st. For some people, I think it's a little bit unclear what we're doing. We're having an all-day workshop from 9 to 4 on Saturday, February the 1st, facilitated by two members of the Pacific Central District, which is our UUA state district area. And so they are running these workshops with churches. And basically, the best way I can explain what it is, when I was a teenager, I was an LRYer as a Unitarian youth. And twice a year, we would have weekend conferences at other churches, and children from 3 or 4 different states would gather together for the weekend for a weekend retreat. This is a single day retreat. And we had workshops and did art projects and had music and held ritual. And it was super, super fun. It was a major part of my youth, but that's sort of the intent of this workshop. There's no obligation for you. There's no homework. There's nothing you need to do besides show up. We are looking for people to stay for the whole day. We will be providing breakfast and lunch, and we will be providing free childcare. And if you have teenagers are welcome to participate. I don't know at what level age it might not be appropriate for the kids to participate, but the entire purpose is these two facilitators are going to work with us to help us better connect to Unitarian Universalism, better connect to our own community, and create for us bonds that will help us as we move in the world living our UU values. So I have a sign-up sheet. You do not have to RSVP, but it does help us with food and materials for the event. You're welcome to just show up that day. If you need childcare, please let us know. And so I'm going to start sending these around. If you want to talk later with me, I'm happy to do that, but I'm really doing a plug. We're hoping to get 20 or 30 people to come. And I really think it will be a lot of fun. And I think you will leave feeling, if you don't know a lot about Unitarian Universalism, you'll probably learn more. And if you don't know a lot about us, you'll probably learn more. And I think it will give you a greater understanding of how maybe this faith helps you live in the world. So that's my plug. And I'd like to introduce Joan to welcome us this morning.
Well, before I welcome us, we have another announcement. We're going to have our spring fundraiser on Saturday, May 17th. I believe it's going to be here at the church. And Stevie is going to, well, all of us together, we're going to pass around this if you want to be part of the planning, if you want to share ideas about, what you want to have happen at that event, then fill that out. Thank you. Okay, now, my name is Joan Lactus. And welcome to the Sunday service of the Sierra Foothills Unitarian Universalists. I am glad to be here with you today, whether you're here in person or watching at home. I'm an older female, silvery hair, wearing a lavender shirt. I have 3 of these shirts in different colors, so that tells you a lot about what kind of person I am. I would first like to acknowledge that we are gathering on the ancestral land of the Nisenan and Southern Maidu people. And in that regard, we are honored to share this sacred place of the ancestors who gathered here. Each Sunday at SFUU is a little different. However, every Sunday here resonates with the same love and care to support you on your spiritual journey. So if this is your first Sunday with us, I invite you to come and visit us more than once to gain further connection with who we are as a faith and as a congregation. It's our purpose to nurture the individual spiritual path of each person and build a common faith based on our shared core values, which include the quest for justice and equality for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We come together to do things that we cannot do alone. In this congregation, we ask you to bring all of who you are, all your questions, your yearnings for peace and justice, your worries and your joys, so that these may be shared in community. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we invite you into this community of searchers and seekers. Now, at this point in the welcome, we generally ask that everyone silence their devices so that we can be fully present to one another. But something that we're starting to regenerate here, we've done this before, is that we're also going to silence our enthusiasm for individual elements of the service. So rather than applauding, and for the same reason, is that we want to provide a contemplative, reflective atmosphere. And when there's all of a sudden a bunch of noise that someone may not be expecting, it can distract them and take them out of their contemplative place. So please show your enthusiasm in a more, it can still be enthusiastic. You can pat yourself on the head or whatever, just so it doesn't make too much noise and distract other people. Come, let us worship together. Our opening words are called "A Fire in the Universe" by Sean Trapp. And I invite Vicki to light our chalice as I read these words. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast, and our experience here is but a blip in the cosmic timeline. This flame is our promise that in our smallness and our short time on this earth, that we live intently and deeply with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with a sense of shared responsibility. And now I invite Joan Harris to share a story for all ages.
I'm the other Joan. So first of all, I'd like to ask, how many of you have seen Jurassic Park? Who's seen Jurassic Park? Who are the main characters in Jurassic Park? I don't need to know their names. What do they do? What do they do? Oh, I heard it over here. They're paleontologists. And paleontologists study what? Fossils? Fossils? Okay. How do they study that? They dig them up. Okay. So they study what has happened in history by digging things up. They study the epochs and the eras. And today we're going to hear about the Anthropocene epoch. Is that or era? Okay. So what do you guys think people hundreds of years from now are going to say about our era?
Dang kids always on their phones.
What do you think, Harriet?
Oh, those arrows are always so bad.
Okay, they're saying it's so bad. Oh,
There was a French philosopher who did the utopia in 2400. So you'd probably say you were the opposite of utopia of that time period.
okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. We had a lot of plastic. That is a great segue. I have a story for you called "Something Happened to Our Planet." It's easier for me to read when I'm sitting. Would you all like to come up and come closer to me? Not just that, I mean, anybody can come up. And you can see it up there too. Okay. Do you want to get, let's see, do you want, all right, how are we going to do this? All right, something happened to our planet.
Next.
Next page, okay, next page. All right, I'm worried something bad is happening to our planet. Dad says the air and the oceans are getting warmer, and that's why storms and fires are worse now than they were before. Mom says these changes won't hurt us now, but a warmer planet will make life harder in the future when I'm as old as Grandma. Grandma says humans hurt the planet and humans can fix it, but I'm just one human. Do you ever feel like that? You know, what can I do? I'm just one person. Yeah. The planet is so big and I'm so small. What can I do? Ants are smaller than you, said my little brother Cameron. A colony of ants can move a mountain of dirt, said Dad, and they help the plants grow. How? I asked. The colony makes a deep nest in the ground led by the queen ant, said Dad. The ants turn the soil, which helps water and food to reach the plants. I thought about how much I could do if I was an ant. But what's the first thing an ant needs? Other ants. I asked my friends to be part of my colony to help the planet. At first, I thought I'd be the leader since it was my idea, but we ended up having 3 leaders, me, Carter, and Tally. We're humans after all, not ants. Now we had to decide what we could do to help the planet. I already knew about pollution. How do we make the air cleaner? I asked Grandma. Plant trees. I was confused, but trees are part of nature. How can they help? We are all part of nature too. If we do our part, nature heals itself, she explained how trees clean the air by taking in the harmful gases humans make and giving us the oxygen we need to breathe. The trees were working hard to save the earth. What could we do to help them? We named our group the Earth Patrol. The trees we planted were as small as Cameron, but we knew they would be big one day. We wanted to do more. I wanted to do something that would help the planet now, something big. Oceans are big, said Carter. We asked our teacher how we could help the ocean. Have you ever seen a coral reef? Miss Nethme asked. She showed us a picture on the internet. My eyes stayed stuck on the screen. The coral reef has thousands of colorful plants and creatures. They need each other and the water to survive. She said that warmer water hurts the coral and turns it white. What's making the water so warm? Asked Tally. The fuels we burn to make and move the things we use and throw away. Even the cans and water bottles we recycle, asked Carter. It's better to reuse than recycle, said Ms. Nethme. It uses less fuel. Maybe we could look for things that we can reuse here at school, I said. Perfect, said Miss Nethme said. Your group can start our girls' first climate plan.
It said school.
Oh, you caught me. Carter, Tally, and I gathered the Earth Patrol. Let's look everywhere in school to get ideas, I said. We looked in the classroom, library, cafeteria, hallways, bathrooms, and playground. We even looked in the trash cans. It was easy to find the room with the biggest trash cans. We talked about what we could reuse at school. In the end, we decided on lunch trays that could be washed and used again. We wrote our idea and reasons why on a piece of paper, which we did not throw away. Do you know here at church that we bought bowls for our potluck soups so that we didn't have bowls to throw away? Miss Nethme went with us to the principal's office. When we were ready, we stood tall like trees and showed him our paper. He said he liked our idea, but the school didn't have the money to buy the trays and the extra dishwasher needed to clean them. We were disappointed. When I got home from school, I might have leaned on Mom and cried, "I'm human after all, not a tree." But we did not give up. We asked our parents to help us talk about our idea at the next PTA meeting. We called it Trays for the Planet, or TP for short. Cameron loved saying our short name. We talked to my dad's friend who knows about energy and recycling. We wrote more reasons why our school should buy the trays and the dishwasher. We said students could help collect and stack the trays at the end of lunch. I kept looking at the live feed of the coral reef on my tablet. That's when I read that the plastic we throw away ends up in the ocean and it hurts the fish. We went to the PTA meeting. All of us brought our parents, and Carter brought his cousin, who is a newspaper reporter. A lot of teachers were there. We waved at Miss Nethme. We took turns reading aloud all the reasons why we thought the school should buy reusable trays. When it was my turn, I was as shaky as a leaf in a rainstorm. The people in the meeting looked so serious. What if they laughed at me? At first, my voice was weak, then it got stronger. When I was done, I looked into the faces of the grown-ups. I still felt small, but I also felt big. I would like to see a coral reef in real life one day, I said. We all would, said Tally. First, there was silence, then clapping, then waiting. The PTA said yes to Trays for the Planet. We can start to help the oceans right now. Even better, the kids got the parents and teachers talking about how to help the planet. They are planning a way to get our school's energy from the sun. But here's the best part. Carter's cousin posted a story about our success, and now other schools may make their own climate plans. We are all part of nature. If we do our part, nature heals itself. Would you like to see the coral reef someday? Yeah. All right, that's the end of my story, and we can go now to class.
Each Sunday, we pause for a time of sharing. Sharing with each other builds community. Because this is a welcome community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we find meaning. This is a sharing community where our joys are amplified. A caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this time to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. Let us hold and reflect on the suffering of Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, Congo, and Ethiopia, where the wars are decimating lives. Let's hope that the recent ceasefire that started today holds for more than the 6 weeks that the Israeli cabinet has given it. Let us understand and reflect that we are working to address suffering from economic inequity, food insecurity, climate, and racial injustice in our own communities. May we continue to reach out and create the change needed to end all suffering with not one left behind. We have 2 entries into the notebook here for personal joys and sorrows. Oh, I'm sorry, there's just one for today. And I'm not sure who this is by. I'm grateful for the crew that went to Nevada City for the People's March. Barb Munn, Amy, Patty, Wesley, John and Val, also Ellen Hansley, It was a great gathering. So who made that entry? Val. Thank you, Val. Janine, may I announce your sisters? May I talk about your sister a little bit? So I will acknowledge we have the LA fires and folks in our own congregation affected by that, including directly Janine's sister. And Leo and Janine will be heading down there Wednesday next week to offer love and support. No, her sister's house was damaged by the fire. I invite you now into a moment of silence to reflect on all we have felt today as we listen to our pastoral hymn. It's number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
For the homily, I have a reading from an author that I just found as in preparing for this talk today. His book is called Sacred Economics. The author is Charles Eisenstein. This is an excerpt. In Sacred Economics, Charles Eisenstein reflects on the economy of ecosystems. In nature, an all-out competition are features of immature ecosystems, followed by complex interdependency, symbiosis, cooperation, and the cycling of resources. The next stage of human economy will parallel what we are beginning to understand about nature. It will call forth the gifts of each of us. It will emphasize cooperation over competition. It will encourage circulation over hoarding, and it will be cyclical, not linear. Money may not disappear anytime soon, but it will serve a diminished role even as it takes on more of the properties of the gift. The economy will shrink and our lives will grow. I hope so. By the way, Joan Harris, thank you so much for finding a story for all age. Oh, she's in the other room, but for the record, thanks, Joan, for finding such a story that was so spot on for today's talk. That was great. Okay, I've got some pages and some slides. I seem to average about one worship service a year, always starting my preparation with thinking about what I want to say, how it's relevant to the SFUU mission, and the 7 overarching Unitarian principles, and I forgot about the new 8th principle, so 8. I think about how I can include my personal thoughts and beliefs and communicate them to you in a way that brings some value to your spiritual center, and maybe more importantly, might spur thoughts or action towards embracing some of the relationship changes I'll be talking about here today. Relationship changes. How does that jive with the title of my talk here today? Systems versus Solutions in the Anthropocene. We'll get there, bear with me. First, what the heck is the Anthropocene? The Earth's history is marked by distinct geological epochs or eras, each characterized by unique environmental conditions and life forms. Currently, the current recognition we call the Holocene. Oh, do we have the next slide? There we go. At the very top there, the pickup truck, we recognize ourselves as living in the Holocene epoch, which began about 12,000 years ago after the last major ice age. However, a growing body of scientific evidence suggests that we have entered a new epoch, one defined by the overwhelming influence of human activity on the planet, and that's called the Anthropocene. So let's dig into this a little bit more. Anthropocene is derived from the Greek words anthropo, meaning human, and scene, meaning new, and was popularized in the early 2000s by an atmospheric chemist, Paul Crutzen. It denotes the period in which human actions have become the primary driver of planetary change, leaving a discernible and potentially irreversible mark on the Earth's geology, ecosystems, and climate. In March 2024, after 15 years of deliberation, the Anthropocene Epoch proposal by the Anthropocene Working Group was voted down by a wide margin by the Subcommission on Quaternary Stratigraphy. How nerdy do you have to be? Owing largely to its shallow sedimentary record and extremely recent proposed start date. So while the exact starting point of the Anthropocene is still debated, with proposed dates ranging from the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution, or even the mid-20th century, the so-called Great Acceleration, the underlying concept remains clear: humanity has become a geologic force. Next slide. So, and they actually they have to define, as you saw in that first graph, there's certain species and life forms associated with each era. And so they actually used as evidence this sedimentary reference from this lake in Canada as perhaps the reference point of the start of the Anthropocene. But as I mentioned, the official body didn't recognize it, at least not yet, for the reasons I stated. But there is some geological evidence. So an interesting sidebar: the shortest known time for a species to evolve and then become extinct is likely the case of the dodo bird, which evolved on the isolated island of Mauritius and went extinct within a few hundred years after humans arrived, meaning its entire evolutionary lifespan and extinction occurred within a relatively short time, likely less than 1,000 years. But even this abbreviated appearance is much longer so far than the timeline of the Anthropocene. And what I mean is that humanity, whether you count it from the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, is still impacted the geology and all aspects of ecosystems on Earth in a much shorter time span than even the shortest evolved and disappeared species, the dodo bird. So that's why I mentioned that. Let's start with the problem. So now we know what the Anthropocene is, how it's defined. What's the problem with humanity becoming a geological force? As Unitarians, we probably already have a pretty good understanding, but let's run through the list for a quick review. Let's start with climate change. Climate change is the most prominent and widely recognized consequence of the Anthropocene. The rapid increase in greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels, has led to a significant warming of the planet. And if we could advance the slide. Hopefully you can see the graph there on the right. You can see that from 1940 to 1970-ish, that the average temperatures, there were neither a preponderance of high temperature days or low temperature days. It was centered around a controlled average. And then beginning in about the mid-70s, we went off the rails. And if you go to 2024, I think most of you know it's been in the news. We're now over, 2024 was the first year where we've averaged over 1.5 degrees centigrade from than the pre-industrial temperature average. So that's a measurable and discernible effect of the Anthropocene, is the increase in temperature, climate change, and all that brings. Extreme weather events, heat waves, droughts, floods, storms, melting glaciers and ice caps, changes in precipitation patterns. And this results in threatening water, food security, displacing millions of people, exacerbating existing inequalities, and creating new social and political tensions. And then I really don't want to joke about it, but you know, the LA, it's no joke. The LA fires, and we have people in this room directly affected. That was probably exacerbated by climate change. Ocean acidification is another effect. As the ocean absorbs a significant portion of excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, it becomes more acidic, with the consequence of detrimental effects on marine life, particularly organisms with calcium carbonate, an alkaline material that builds their shells or skeletons. So that's the corals, like was in the coral reef mentioned in the book from Joan, shellfish, and plankton. And then I'll add this point, because I hear people, you know, in the news and various experts saying, well, we can put, you know, mirrors up in space, or we can reflect the heat. We can basically build some kind of technological solution that would serve us as a thermostat. We can just turn the temperature of the Earth down a little bit. Let's say we can do that. It's what's overlooked is this particular point, is that even if we had that magic thermostat, the ocean acidification is going to continue for thousands of years, even if we stop all carbon emissions today. So even if you can control the temperature, the ocean acidification is going to continue with those consequences. A few more, biodiversity loss. Human activities are causing mass extinction of unprecedented scale, with species disappearing at a rate estimated to be 100 to 1,000 times higher than the natural background rate. Soil degradation caused by unsustainable agricultural practices, deforestation, urbanization, and that all reduces fertility of the land and affects food production. And finally, of course, general pollution. We've all heard about PFAS and forever chemicals. You know, air pollution. California just delayed some more stringent air pollution laws, unfortunately. For vehicles, water pollution, plastic pollution. I didn't really fact check this, but I heard some statistic that there might be more plastic in the ocean than fish in the next 100 years or so. So these environmental changes that are driven by the Anthropocene pose a range of follow-on threats to humanity, including the resource scarcity and conflict, mass population displacement and migration, collapse of essential ecosystem services such as pollination, water purification, and climate regulation. These are all things we get for free from the Earth's existing systems. Increased risk of pandemics, and societal and economic disruption. Is it perhaps evident, after listing these effects and threats to the Anthropocene, that a fundamental shift in our relationship with the planet is required? Perhaps we need to move away from unsustainable patterns of production and consumption and adopt a more sustainable and equitable approach to life. That's the problem with the Anthropocene. So what are solutions? Considering the problems just stated, it's quite natural, especially if you have a technical, scientific, or engineering mindset, to jump to the bucket of solutions to these problems. And this is what we hear a lot about. Oft-cited solutions to the imminent problems of the Anthropocene include mitigating climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions through transitioning to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, and protecting forests. Conserving biodiversity by protecting natural habitats, reducing pollution, and promoting sustainable agriculture and forestry practices. Promoting sustainable resource management by reducing waste, recycling, and using resources more efficiently. Investing in research and innovation to develop new technologies and solutions for addressing the environmental challenges. Promoting education and awareness to raise public understanding of the challenges posed by the Anthropocene and encouraging sustainable behaviors. And finally, strengthening international cooperation to address global environmental challenges collectively. I don't know if any of you follow the COP meetings where they try to do just that and how weak we come out the other end of those conferences. So forgive my sardonic tone as I read about those solutions. Because are they really solutions? I don't see how any of these solutions support or demand a fundamental change in our relationship with the Earth and the ecosystems that will sustainably provide for planetary health and balance. Under the Western capitalist growth economic model, I predict that even if we had 100% ubiquitous free renewable energy, we'd only ruin the Earth faster. Let's look at one example. An artificial intelligence search or prompt using ChatGPT takes 10 times as much electricity to process as a Google search. Data center demand, already at about 2% of global power demand, is forecast to rise to 4% by the end of the decade, resulting in a doubling of data center carbon dioxide emissions between now and 2030. Even if we powered these data centers, and for that matter, the entire global industrial economy by 100% renewable energy, it would just foster more growth for more profit and require more exploitation of the natural world. Those are some thoughts on solutions. I'm not really buying it. So after all this wind-up, what's the punchline? What are the systems and relationship changes that could avert our collision course with nature, this hallmark of the Anthropocene, and provide a path towards abundance and reciprocity rather than scarcity and exploitation? How do we overcome this cultural inertia? I only have a few minutes left to leave you with some ideas of what effectual systemic changes are possible to end the negative effects of the Anthropocene. I could go on for hours, days, weeks, PhD thesis. So instead, I will end this homily with a few ideas from folks that are the experts, folks that have done the intensive research and thoughtful explorations of what the path out of the Anthropocene could be. And I have some props and we have some slides. Oh, I included this. This is my image. It was taken in 2009. We lived in Oregon, Ohio, the first eastern suburb of Toledo, 2 miles from this disaster, from the Sun oil refinery. And one day in December, I just had some time and took my camera, thought I'd drive around, see if I could get some shots. And this is the Sun oil refinery, 2 miles from where my family lived. And I've often wondered, and there was another BP Husky refinery about 5 miles to the north. And I've also wondered if any of this played into my wife Diana's cancer. I don't know, but this can't be good. And notice the tomb. This was the poignant part about this image is that look at all the tombstones there's a cemetery captured in the foreground. So the first book I'll mention, some of you certainly have heard of Robin Wall Kimmerer and read her bestseller Braiding Sweetgrass. She has a short follow-up book called The Service Berry. And it's a short book, it's an easy read, but it is just packed with the rationale of ideas of how we could have systemic changes in reaction to changing our relationship and effects of Anthropocene. And a couple of her recommendations: shifting the mindset of ownership to one of kinship, recognizing that we are part of, not apart from, the natural world, and cultivating respectful relationships with all beings, practicing gratitude and reciprocity, acknowledging the gifts of the earth and offering something in return, whether it's tending the land, sharing knowledge, or simply expressing appreciation. Living within our means, recognizing that our needs are met by Earth's abundance and avoiding consumption that depletes resources for future generations. Finding joy in simple pleasures, appreciating the beauty and wonder of the natural world, and finding contentment in experiences. Essentially, she encourages us to live in harmony with the natural world by embracing gratitude, reciprocity, and a deep respect for all living things. So, in This Changes Everything, Naomi Klein argues that the climate change necessitates a fundamental shift away from our current economic system. A shift away from unfettered capitalism prioritizes profit over environmental sustainability and social equity. She recommends deconstructing corporate power. That's not going so well. Challenging the influence of fossil fuel companies and dismantling systems that prioritize profit over people and the planet. Investing in a public commons, public infrastructure, prioritizing renewable energy, sustainable transportation, community-led solutions, addressing social and economic inequalities, ensuring a just transition for workers from fossil fuel industry, and addressing disproportionate impacts of climate change on marginalized communities, and building a truly and democratic and participatory society, and fostering a more economic and just world. Now the next slide. So I just ordered this book. I have 4 of the 6 that I'm presenting on. How many of you heard of how many of you heard of Octavia Butler? Okay, a handful. So she's a renowned Black author. She died some years ago. She was a MacArthur Genius Grant recipient. And she wrote this book in 1993 called Parable of the Sower. I haven't read it yet. It's set in 2025 in Southern California and talks about devastating fires. So this book is like getting referenced now, like in the news and stuff. And it's a fictional book, but the ideas presented therein through the fictional lens of the character Lauren Alamina's Earthseed philosophy include embrace change as inevitable, recognize that change is the only constant, and prepare for an uncertain future. Prioritize community and cooperation, build strong, resilient communities that can support each other through hardship. And it's so good to have this community. Focus on adaptability and resilience. Cultivate skills and knowledge necessary for survival in a changing world, such as resourcefulness, self-sufficiency, and critical thinking. Something else we're not doing too well with. Challenge existing power structure. Some of these authors reflect the ideas from each other. It's common. Seek out and create new possibilities, explore new ways of living and interacting with the environment. I would say changing our relationship with the environment, while acknowledging the limitations and challenges of the future. Ultimately, Parable of the Sower encourages readers to confront the realities of a changing world and strive for a better future, even in the face of adversity. And then the second book there that I also do not have, but will be on my list, and I cited it from the reading, is Sacred Economics by this Charles Eisenstein. His recommendations include shifting from growth to abundance, recognizing that true wealth lies in the interconnectedness of life and focusing on meeting human needs rather than maximizing profit. Reevaluating non-monetary work, acknowledging the importance of unpaid work such as caregiving, community building, and environmental stewardship. exploring alternative currencies, implementing local currencies, time banks, other systems that prioritize community needs and reduce reliance on traditional finance, reclaiming the commons, restoring public ownership of essential resources like land, water, and energy. Those should be public, available to all. Cultivating a deeper sense of interconnectedness, recognizing our interdependence with all living beings and fostering a more cooperative and compassionate society. Again, common between these people. Let's move on to the next book, which is really, if there's any of these that to read, it's this one. How many of you have read Ishmael? Great, pretty fair number. This is life-changing for me. Daniel Quinn, he does a comparison between takers and givers, and he critiques the taker culture, arguing that humanity's current trajectory of endless growth and consumption is unsustainable, and of course it is. He proposes a shift towards a more, I'm sorry, it wasn't giver, it was lever culture, characterized by living within limits, recognizing the finite nature of resources and living in harmony with the natural world. And I would definitely include limits on population too. Prioritizing community and cooperation, fostering strong interconnected communities that prioritize the well-being of all members. Getting back to our tribal roots, that's how humans evolved. Small local communities looking after each other. Embracing diversity, acknowledging the inherent value of all life and respecting the interconnectedness of all beings, questioning the dominant narrative. Again, repeating, all these brilliant people. And then finally, we have Jessica Kara Kraft and her book, Why We Need to Be Wild. Hopefully some of you remember that just over a year ago, it was December 2023. She and I did a co-worship together here because she lives locally and she's the author of this book. And she explores the concept of rewilding, connecting with our ancestral past and developing the skills and knowledge necessary to live in a more natural environment. By reconnecting with nature, spending time outside, observing wildlife, learning to live in harmony with the natural world, developing those essential skills such as foraging, hunting, building shelters, navigating by stars, cultivating resilience and self-reliance, building community, finding joy in simplicity. You get the point. Essentially, Kraft encourages readers to embrace a more wild way of living, one that is more connected to nature, more self-reliant, and ultimately more fulfilling. And then I'm going to add one more point of my own before we wind up. And this might not set well, but I think it's true. While nonviolence should always be the first and foremost goal, it's crucial to acknowledge the potential for violence in the face of systemic resistance to necessary change. Most, if not all, cultural revolutions in history unfortunately had the element of violence underpinning them. Finding peaceful and effective pathways to transformation will be a critical challenge in the Anthropocene. I'll end with 3 quotes and a visual reference to our UU values. The first is from Gandhi: your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. And I would say there's a great disconnect between what we value in contemporary Western society today and a fulfilling destiny. The second quote is from Octavia Butler: all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. And the last quote is from me, and I don't think it's on there, but that's fine, leave it there. There are other ways of living. There are other definitions of success. Nothing lives alone. And that was where I ended up the talk that I gave with Jessica last December. I reviewed the talk and I thought, yeah, it'd be good to end on that again. So as we view the last slide together, echoing our UU values, I want to emphasize that love is always at the center. And I hope that this was received in that spirit. Blessed be.
Thank you, John. Got our work cut out for us there, huh? One time we had a guest minister, and the guest ministers said UUs always want to know what they can do that would really change things. And what he said was, give all your money away. And I haven't done it, but it sticks with me that we would be a start. Every week in our church, we ritually share our gratitude when we take up the offering. Our UU faith with love at the center makes this shared generosity an essential practice in support of our spiritual well-being, as much as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. This month, our Share the Plate partner is the Auburn Interfaith Food Closet. You may always choose where your offerings go. You can choose to share 50-50, donate 100% to our Share the Plate recipient, or choose to offer 100% to our operational budget. And at any time, you can contribute to our collection by going to our website or texting text to give. This time of year for many can be challenging, and as such, it is important to remind ourselves to be grateful for the abundance, which is our lives, as we remember all those who do not have enough, who are afraid, who are lonely, who suffer. We wish for the abundance of this world to be shared, for fear to become love, for the lonely to feel welcomed, and for the suffering to know rest and joy. And John, who can do just everything, is also going to play the offering music after the Gold Rush by Neil Young. The morning offering will now be given and received in the spirit of appreciation and gratitude.
All right, let's see if I can switch from worship leader to musician. Well, I dreamed I saw the mountain come and something about there were peasants singing and drummers drumming, and the archer split the tree. There was a fanfare blowing the sun that was floating. Look at Mother Nature on the rock in the Anthropocene. Look at Mother Nature on the rock in the Anthropocene. I was lying in our basement with the full moon in my eye. I was hoping for replacement when the sun burst through the sky. There was a band playing in my head, and I felt like getting high. I was thinking about what a friend had said. I was hoping it would lie. I was thinking about what a friend had said. I was hoping it would lie. Well, I dreamed I saw the silver spaceships flying in the yellow haze of the sun. There were children crying and colors flying all around the chosen one, all in a dream. The loading begun, flying Mother Nature's silver sea to a new home in the sun. Flying Mother Nature's silver sea to a new home. Thank you.
And now if you'll please rise as you're willing and able for one of our most favorite hymns, Blue Boat Home. Number 1064.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I ply the starry seas, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Let us heed the advice of Robin Wall Kimmerer and go forth with the understanding and the will to convert the tragedy of the commons into the community of abundance. The gift economy is in reach of everyone. It's subversive and delicious. And now, if we'll say our closing words as we extinguish the chalice. And if you'd like to join in contact and hands. As we go forth, may we carry the flame of love and peace with justice until we meet again. Blessed be.